What's going on, everybody? It is yet another Drinks with Los Hermanos, and this episode is with Braulio Green, one of the founding members of the Battle Creek great jazz fusion band called Minor Element. It's a little bit of a long episode, so you gotta bear with us, stick around, but it's good info. Great friend of ours, and so we were getting the chit-chatting, and I mean, things happen. So sit back, put your earpods in, and enjoy. Take it easy. Welcome to Drinks with Los Hermanos with Tristan,
Jackson,
and we are here with Braulio. He's our good friend for many, many years, and he decided to come have a drink with us and have some charcuterie aboard, the adult version of the Lunchables.
Yeah.
So we're just, it's going to be a little different this week. Braulio is an entrepreneur, but he still works for the VA.
He just recently launched his new venture, Beats by Braulio.
True. And we'll get into that. But it's going to be more conversational, so sit back, enjoy, and let's start this off, Braulio. Tell us who you are.
I am one of the founding members of a jazz fusion group called Minor Element.
Very good.
Originating from here, from Battle Creek. I'm the guitarist in that band. Started back in 2012 with my good friend Brandon. And from that point, we kind of met up with a few other people, got a larger group. Up to this point, we're at like...
We're 9-piece?
Yeah, 9-piece.
That's a big band.
It is a big band. Part of the larger Black Sheep Music Collective. Just a bunch of different really talented artists in the area, like James McGee, Stanley Phillips, Jermaine Williams. Mostly into the music scene.
So
Not necessarily an entrepreneur.
What kind of music scene does Battle Creek actually have?
So there's, in terms of like musicians and artists, there's actually a lot more in Battle Creek than what it seems like. In regards to venues, we don't have that many musical venues in general. The one fully dedicated music venue we have is like the Music Factory.
Yeah.
You know, Clara's still does music nights every once in a while.
Out on the porch a lot.
Yep, out on the porch. I know every once in a while Friendship Park will have something going on. During the summertime, we've got Lollapalooza. Has some pretty big acts coming through. National acts.
Did you guys headline that last year?
Lollapalooza?
Yeah.
No, we weren't one of the headlining bands. We were on the main stage at one point, though.
Okay.
So, sort of. I don't think we were necessarily the act to go see, but we were definitely on the main stage.
Sure. Goals. Just like goals. Headlining Lollapalooza.
All in due time.
You guys actually aren't going this year, right?
Lila?
Yeah. Or are you?
We might. I don't have a confirmation on that yet. We have a lot of stuff that is been put forward in terms of booking, but we haven't gotten confirmation on too many things. I think our next confirmed show is April 12th, which is our next For Your Ears Only show, which is another Black Sheep event.
That's at Bell's, right?
Yep.
That's an awesome venue. I've only been there once for a music show, and it was with Tess and Sambo. They were like, "Hey, do you want to?" So they listened to ska, and it was Mustard Plug. So
Okay.
I always make a joke. I'm like, "Oh, catch up hole, yeah, let's go." And so they were like, "Hey, you want to go see? You want to go with us?" And because they get like every time they're in Kalamazoo, which they're in Kalamazoo a lot because they're from Grand Rapids, I think they just go because it's a cool show. And I was like, ska music's cool. Sure, I'll go. Whatever. It's like $7 a ticket.
I'm down to clown.
I actually had a really good time there. It was really cool. It's a really cool venue. Like it's big enough to fit a lot of people in there, but it's kind of an intimate, close. Like even if you're in the back by the bar, you're still not that far away from the stage. So it's a pretty cool spot.
Yeah, Bell's is one of those venues that's very, very close to like what I like in terms of shows. Like smaller venues, not a huge stage or anything like that. I mean, big enough to fit a large band like ours on, but not
Not
so
like an arena.
Yeah, not so huge that you just lose all of the intimacy. Yeah, just between the musicians and the crowd.
It kind of seems like one of those like I don't want to say stereotypical, but one of those like classic small venue spots that it's kind of a. I don't want to say it's a dive, but it's like it's just for music.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bar there. It's not anything fancy, but it's just a
Backroom's
cool
killer.
spot. Yeah.
I think they have one of the best sound systems, if not in the state, maybe just in the general region. Honestly,
Wow.
their board's killer. Their board is stupid cool.
So
Top
when you're talking about that, like what do you mean for the people that aren't musically inclined?
So
That's really killer. Yeah.
it's just a high-end functioning board. I mean, besides your basic, like parametric control over like equalization and balancing the sound and everything, but it's got like I think it has I'm not specific on the exact model, but it's got the capability to live track and record any show that's being played there.
So it records while you're playing.
Absolutely.
Live.
So you can play live, and if we wanted to like
Do
like,
live
a
album.
live record or like
So-
record all of that, we can just pay for that service and then we'll run it through that. I think it's one of the few boards in the area that you can, if you have a sound guy to run stuff with, you can actually run like VTS plugins, like if you use auto tune for your vocals, you can easily run through stuff from that.
So you can have autotune live, basically.
Yeah.
So is that a unique thing to have? Is that like hard to get?
It's hard to get like really good auto tune live.
Because they have that board that's kind of in the middle of the room, right? That's
Yeah,
what
you
you're
can
talking
do
about?
that.
Yeah.
There's a few different ways you can do it. There's actually like a couple of manufacturers who make like effects pedals.
Just like for your guitar pedals?
Yeah, just those like guitar pedals, and you just put your mic through it and it'll do it. But like how quickly it tracks, how accurate it is, the way it sounds, you can't manipulate that as much as you could, like the actual full featured digital set.
Okay.
So that's why it helps to have the plug-in software available to you.
So the sound guy, is there a name for the sound guy? Or is it just
Engineer.
Sound,
He's a sound engineer.
So during concerts, so that's like I've gone to a couple like festivals and concerts where there's that, or even saw documentaries. So that's the guy. They have that board in front of the stage, where like
Kind of in the middle of the crowd
yeah.
or whatever.
So why is he positioned there?
So depending on which venue it is, sometimes it's like the only spot left for him that doesn't get in the way. Bells, the positioning for the sound guy at Bells, I think I can almost guarantee that was specifically for the sound guy to hear everything that's going on. When a group does sound check. So they thought about it.
Okay.
So that's ideal.
So it's during sound
Yeah,
check. They're
I mean-
in front of, they're in the middle of where the crowd would be, so they're trying to get the best sound.
yeah, because that's
and then
where
they
all
tune
the
it
sound
out.
would
Yeah.
be, right?
So like it's essentially the same principle for like a home theater setup. Like the best spot is certain distance away from the stage, away from the speakers. Same with home studios. If you're recording, you've got monitors pointed at an angle towards the center seat where you're at a certain distance away, and that board is stationed right there so that they have the best.
So you can hear everything to make sure you can adjust it.
Yeah, you have the best auditory view essentially.
So I guess you said if you have a sound guy, how common is it for a band or an act to have one?
Professionals, very common.
Professional? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, what level of professional?
If you're making enough money to pay another guy to just do sound, then yeah.
So you have to be reasonably successful
Yes.
to have a sound guy.
Yes.
Do you guys have a sound guy?
Yes, we do.
Reasonably
Yeah.
successful. Yeah.
Yes, we do. I mean, we got lucky. We met our buddy Zane, and he's really cool. It's really, so I want to say it's more common if you're reasonably professional to have that. It's less common to be like a semi-professional group or artist, and then there are lucky guys out there who end up meeting each other, and just like some people are just thirsty to be part of that.
Yeah.
And
So they'll just do it for cheap.
Yeah,
because
they
want to
do
be.
it. Exactly.
They want
So-
to move up the ranks.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's
it's
just
just
like
what
the
it-
experience,
yeah.
or they're like
Yeah.
really into what you as an artist are doing,
Yeah.
and so that does happen. I don't want to say it's like it never happens, but that's kind of uncommon.
So, Black Sheep, Minor Element. First of all, when did it start?
Minor Element started in 2012. I don't remember when Black Sheep was like official. It was only a couple years ago that I think we actually bought the rights to the name.
Bought the rights to the name.
To Black Sheep.
What does that mean?
Like we have the LLC.
Oh,
so within
gotcha.
state.
So like you actually formed a legal document that says you guys are real.
Yes. So I think that like the group itself and the collection has existed for a while, but the officially.
So let's go back to the unofficial times. How did it start? Like what year, when, at what point did you guys go, this is what we want to start do?
Yeah, like you and Brandon were like, I want to do a jazz fusion band. What are we doing?
That was 2012. We were in college together studying music theory, and me and Brandon have been jamming together since high school. I think since I was a junior and he was a freshman. We would like hang out after school for a couple hours.
He's younger than you?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to tell ages.
Dude's
He got
6
ID'd
foot.
last night.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
Dude's 6'4", got a goat chin, and but 2012, we were in college, taking music theater together. We were jamming since high school, and then I think it was one afternoon after our classes, our music theory classes, we were just sitting there playing. I was playing guitar, he's playing piano, and we just both kind of stopped. And he was like, "We should start a band." And I was like, "That's
like that.
exactly what I was about to say." And
did he still wear the really small sunglasses then?
No, not at the time. That came later.
I've never seen him without them. When did he put those on?
That's been like a couple of years. Like he's wanted those types of frames for a while. And then he found some, and I feel like ever since he found like a good pair that he liked, he just doesn't take them off.
Not even when performing inside?
No. There was a show we did in Canada where he was wearing, it's like midnight, close to 1 or something like that. Dark as hell, and he ended up leaving one of his keyboards behind when we drove back to Michigan. Because the keyboard was black, he had his sunglasses on, and I was making fun of him. I was like, you're gonna leave some behind because you can't see a goddamn thing.
Nah, man, I'm good.
Exactly. Just refused. Like, it's not gonna. He's like, I'll be fine, bro. I'll be all right. And then I think we had a gig the next day, and he was like, dude, I forgot my keyboard. He's like, I don't know where it's at.
At the next
He's got
day
it.
show?
Yeah, at the next day show. I was like, I told you, screwing out with those damn sunglasses all the time. Now you left your keyboard up in Canada.
Did he get the keyboard back?
Yes, he did. Yes,
They
he
sent
did.
it to him?
Nope. He just waited. We booked another show up at the same venue. Went back, and when we went to the next show, we just.
That's why you guys booked it, just purely for the keyboard. We gotta go back. We'll
The
do
crowd
a free
was
show.
terrible. It was all bullshit, but I needed the keyboard back.
No. He kept talking like he was gonna have it shipped for a while, but he just never did. He put it off and put it off.
Scheduled a show instead. Good work, Brandon. I like it.
But
Awesome.
so yeah, 2012 we started talking, and right when we had both like we should start a band. Our first drummer, Dominic Hall Taylor, walked in. He opened the door. He was like, "Hey, I just heard you guys on the hall. Are you guys in a band?" And then we were like,
Yeah.
we are now.
We are now. That's great.
You want to jam? So
it started as a
it
three-person
started
band?
as a 3-piece.
Okay.
And it was very, at the time we were playing for like the country club, community foundation, doing a lot of banquets and really like low-key music stuff. Playing smooth jazz, more like contemporary stuff. Or
Kenny
modern
G type?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Saxophonist?
Nope, it was just guitar, piano, and drums at the time. And then after a while, we were like, we need a bass player. And then we went through a few bass players until we got to our current run, Troy Robertson, the third, as they call him. And then we try to find horn players. We had my friend Xavier doing it for a while. Yeah.
Dr. X.
Trent Sanchez was playing trumpet first for a while. Right now we've got Quinn Blakely on saxophone and Brent Procius on trumpet. Both Western students, both really talented guys. Really digging both.
Yeah, that's what Brando said. He said the other day, like you said, you went through a couple of horn players. Hornist? What do they call it? What? I don't want to.
I just call them horn players depending on what they are. If it's like a trumpet.
Just call them horn players.
Yeah.
They're all the same.
I mean, I feel like as a trumpet player, I can say that. Because if I don't care about what people call me, other people really shouldn't care what I call them. Like if it's specifically trumpet players, I'll call them trumpeteers or something like that.
Yeah, but he was saying you guys went through a couple of them and then finally found
These two guys, you can just send them music, and like in a day they got it, and then you can just go. And
so that's moved
day or
up
two.
progressively.
Yeah, they learn pretty quickly. I haven't had to chart out music for a while for the band. We charted stuff out for our first EP. Stranger Things, but like after that, the way that we just kept writing music post the EP, like because they were there and a part of it, we didn't have to chart that out for them. They wrote the parts or they learned the parts in the moment, so it was a little easier.
Yeah.
Less trouble for me. I didn't have to sit at a computer. There was one day I sat at a computer like for 4 hours straight, just staring at the screen, like hunched over like this, with one of them behind me, and I was like, all right, what did you play? Or what's the part? And then just like keying it in, notating everything.
So they played it first, and then you had to go back and like figure it
yeah,
out?
well, because like we were still kind of like unsettled on certain players, and if we were ever in a situation where somebody needed to learn our back catalog,
You had it recorded.
then we have it recorded, but
They
also
had to chart it so they could play it.
Some musicians just work better off of sheet music. So it was like, it'd be nice to have the old stuff because it's fairly simple to just be charted out. And you just email it to them, and you know, if they're professionals, if they're really good about it, they'll just practice it, get it down, be good
when
to go.
they show up, they'll be good.
I'm gonna get more beer. Keep talking.
All right, cool. I'm down.
So so you guys are a 9-piece now.
Yep.
What all do you have?
We have Brandon on keys, Brandon Fitzpatrick, Tom Ryberg on keys, Anthony on drums.
So Tom's on keys.
Yeah,
Nice.
we got 2 keyboardists, man. 2.
That's
Got
crazy.
to.
Some dueling piano.
Well, that's the thing. It's like one of them's holding down like the backing chords, you know, the actual like chordal progression, and then somebody else is doing like auxiliary stuff. So, Anthony on drums, Brent on keys, Tom Ryberg on keys, Quinn on saxophone, Brent on trumpet. We just got our new buddy Colin doing auxiliary percussion, Troy on bass, Ben Crino on guitar. He's brand new, and then me on guitar.
So personally, how long have
9
you been
guys.
playing music, an instrument? What was your first instrument?
My first instrument was trumpet, and I've been playing since 6th grade, so, God. Upwards of a decade at this point. I've kind of dropped off a little bit, so I don't want to say, like, 14 years or anything like that, just because I play guitar so much more now. Like, I'll pick it up every once in a while, but it's not my mainstay instrument anymore. But since 6th grade, middle school.
So how many instruments do you play?
So proficiently, I play 2 instruments, essentially. But I do mess around, like if I have sheet music in front of me, I can play a fairly simple piano song. I can read and write music for piano. And I can read and write music for most instruments. Just, you know, by the nature of going through music theory, you kind of figure that out.
So
But,
when you say proficient, what do you qualify as proficient?
Proficient, you can, I would say, in the simplest terms, not only can you read the music, but you can sight read, which is to say the first time you ever see a piece of music,
You can just play it.
you can just play it on the spot, you know, with little to no mistakes whatsoever, and that I would clarify that as proficient.
Okay. So, how many was that? You said
So two effectively, but I still mess around with, like percussion stuff, like bongos, congas, and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm not that good of a drummer, but I do mess around with it.
Slam poetry.
Piano, I had classes for that for a while. So I'm like.
So what made you get into music?
So actually, when I first started in middle school, I actually wanted to quit right when I got into high school. I was not interested in it at all. I was about to quit band, both marching and the concert band that I was in. And I just wasn't into it. And when I first got into high school and I saw, I think it was like the first time that I like saw and heard like what the trumpet could do, and it was just really fucking cool. Like I had no idea. I was like, I didn't know this was like this instrument could be that
Versatile,
expressive,
yeah.
or just like how far you could take this fairly simplistic thing and make really awesome things with it. Just make music. But yeah, so I had my seniors when I was a freshman really inspired me. Our trumpet instructor, Jake Wentworth, really inspired me. My band director, Brian Busick, inspired me in that. And after my freshman year, I like just kept getting more and more serious about it. And then I think it was my sophomore year that I kind of stumbled upon it. Like, I don't know why it didn't click with me in my head until I saw it, but it was like another one of the trumpet players in my section for marching band, and they were in one of the practice rooms in the music building at Central playing guitar, and I was like, you can do that? Like, you play another instrument? Like, I can play guitar too?
I'm not just
exactly. It seems really stupid. Like, it didn't click. I was like, I'm a trumpet player. All I can do is play trumpet. But no, there's like a whole breadth of instruments that I could like. Oh, I'll just learn that too. So I think it was Christmas later that year that my parents got me a guitar. It was like a really cheap starter pack. To be fair, it was like a guitar and amp in one box. Pretty bad, but I stuck with it, and look at me now, playing in a jazz
Mr.
fusion
Worldwide. Watch out, Pitbull. Coming.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I mean, like, you're talking about how, like, you finally saw how versatile and expressive the trumpet could be. Like, so I was in, like, middle school band, and I wasn't good, so I quit. Didn't like it.
Didn't
wasn't
click.
for me.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm not that type of brained person. But it really took me a very long time, like, as a listener, to realize what trumpets can do. Like, so I really love New Orleans, and then I started, like, YouTubing, going down the rabbit hole in music, and like Kermit Ruffins is really great with the trumpet. Just listening to all that type of music, it is so much different than like the trumpet you imagine, because you're like, oh, you're
in a concert band.
You're in a concert band or in a marching band, and you play these cool songs, but that's what it does. But then
pretty rudimentary, like.
But then you see a guy like him, and he's playing like every night at bars, and like people are just jamming and having a great time listening, and it's just really, really cool. And it's like you said, you just kind of, your mind gets opened up to it, because it's not what you imagine ever, and then you see what it can do.
Right.
And like, as somebody who's not musically inclined, it's pretty awesome to see what someone like that can do with an instrument.
Yeah, like I think with most instruments, there's like a preconceived notion on what their job is per se. So like, if you think about a guitarist, you're probably gonna think rock and rolls or blues or something like that.
My man John Mayer.
Body is a wonder.
But yeah, New Orleans jazz is like, New Orleans music in general is a much different experience compared to like, I don't know if you've ever listened to like Trombone Shorty.
Yeah.
But he plays,
It's like that preconceived notion, like, oh, trombones, and just in the back of a concert band. Nope, not him.
That whole scene down there is wild, though. I watched a documentary for, I want to say, it's called Sonic Highways, Foo Fighters.
Yeah,
making of
they
their
were down
album.
in,
They were down in,
oh, what the hell's the name of that place?
I can't remember.
Something Hall.
Arsenio?
No,
Not
no,
Arsenio Hall.
no. It was this old shut down music hall in New
Yeah,
Orleans.
because it got shut down during the
Yep.
hurricane, and they opened it
Yep.
back up.
But it had a huge, long history. But the just
Preservation Hall.
Yep,
That's what it is.
Preservation Hall. But like listening to like New Orleans jazz, when you hear jazz, like the word,
Yeah, you're like,
you have,
oh.
you have a preconceived notion. It's like
Yeah, I was
smooth,
gonna say,
calm.
which
it's
is
like,
another thing that you put in a box
It's-
that's like
It's like lounge music. You're in a hotel bar, and you're
going
listening
down
to
an
some
elevator.
Easy
listening to
listening.
some guy on a there's a piano and a guy at a grand piano and a guy on
Trumpet or
saxophone,
something, yeah.
just playing soft music to fill the space.
but it's not like that down there. It's super exciting. It's really wild.
Yeah.
It's just really fun. It's just part of the culture. And like most things, culture-wise, it's usually just really like just sucks you in.
Which is, I think, your guys' style as a minor element is kind of,
Reminds me of that.
yeah, it's not full, like, it's not as crazy and, like, back and forth, but there's tastes, spots where it is kind of like that, but then kind of,
Yeah.
it's almost like a concert band with jazz with something else, and
There's a lot of those elements in it.
Th- That's
especially
how I
your
like
guys'
to-
new album. Got a sneak peek. It was
Yes,
great.
yes. that's how I like to explain the band because like jazz fusion is pretty wide in terms of breadth of like what you can hear for jazz fusion bands.
Well, it's kind of an ambiguous. Like it could be a lot of things when you say it's jazz.
exactly.
fusion.
So like, but that is how I like to explain it. It's like I tell people that it's very much like New Orleans jazz, where it's much more exciting than your basic contemporary smooth or anything like that. But it's still it still has like that. It has all that flair, but it still has some of that sophisticated like intellectual, architecture when it comes to like songwriting and stuff like that. So
Well, that kind of
It's
reminds
interesting.
me. One of the main reasons I got so involved into New Orleans was a show called Treme. And one of the guys down there, he was a jazz trumpeter, I guess. And he moved out of New Orleans and went to New York and all that stuff. And like when he came back, some of the local guys were giving him a hard time because he was a sellout and a classical jazz guy. And he had kind of proved that he could still play like that and stuff like that. But it's just nuts how like those little sections can go off like that. And you guys have a mix of both, which is really cool.
yeah, I've kind of realized it's important for everybody to kind of get comfortable with whatever lane they came from in terms of what really got them into their instruments. If Anthony came from like a gospel drumming background, he should
Let it
be
shine.
exactly just let it shine within the group because of the natural way that everyone's different influences come together. That's just how it gives birth to what is minor element jazz fusion.
So that's kind of the philosophy you guys kind of go with. And is that why, like, the you guys' Stranger Things, it was more, I would say traditional, I guess, where it's what you would expect.
Yeah.
You guys put your flair on it, but this next one was just, it seemed like there was like, all right, this is gospel, and all of a sudden this is New Orleans jazz, and all of a sudden this is electronic with synths and all that, and then honestly the whole time we were listening in here, it was almost like my brain was going through a whole like adventure, and like there was one part I think we both said that it belonged in like an action movie. It was like an action, and you hear it like kind of slow down, and it's like you picture some dude just like walking down a dark alley, like probably stumbling a little bit, and like going through some sorrows,
suspenseful things happening, and then just boom, and it picks back up. And
right, goes completely
like,
different.
The chase scene continues, or something
Right,
like
yeah.
that. It's nuts.
So it's like kind of like how you guys made that project, and kind of how you guys see how make your music, or
So
just by accident?
So I don't think like when we started writing songs for the new record, we didn't really have like I don't want to say this because there's like 9 people. I don't want to speak for everybody, but from what I could tell, there wasn't necessarily like a definitive direction that we wanted to take it, or even approach it to like one song was written, and then from there, like all of these songs kind of just came together. One of the songs, "Steps Ahead," was written by our saxophonist Quinn Blakeney, and that one's got a lot of electronic stuff going on in it. But it also has, that's got like one of the catchiest like melodic like hooks in the entire album to me. And when he first brought that song, I was like, this is gold. This is perfect. This is wonderful. But then it was beautiful. But then it took that crazy electric turn where it was just like, it got wild. It just completely departed from that.
Is that the one with the whale sounds?
No, that's the album title track, Odd Family. And I wrote that from just listening to like a bunch of 10-second Instagram videos from one of my favorite bands, Snarky Puppy. They were like going through Morocco, and they were listening to a lot of the local artists and everything that they were doing, and then a lot of like the rhythmic stuff, like that. There's a lot of like African style beats, and then I wanted to mix that with like a Spanish style chord progression. And ended up coming with Odd Family. But like Odd Family just kept, and the more we sat down one night, we were writing it, and I was kind of trying to like focus the rhythm section. I think it was Troy, Anthony, and Brandon, and I was just kind of like, no, do this here, no, do that there, kind of, no, like, because I had it in my head, I just had to like put it out there, and then the horns came in and did their lines over it. But I think the 4 songs that I brought to the album, I think I did like after I wrote Odd Family. That's when I started writing more in terms of like a direction on what I wanted to put into the album. So I feel like the songs like Doublespeak, Odd Family, Prospero, and Kingmaker, like when I brought the bones of those songs to a rehearsal to like finish them out, like Odd Family, the album, like kind of came together, and then Brandon already had his songs like Finster and 5D that were like they just kind of felt natural within that space anyway. Same with Steps Ahead, and Anthony, our drummer, wrote a song called Steep that is more along the lines, it feels very gospel to me, but at the same time it also feels very contemporary in terms of like the jazz sound that it has, but it's still fusiony, still catchy, you know. It's got a lot of it's got pop elements to it, I guess, you know.
So when you say bones, is that just the basics?
I bring the chord progression and the generalistic, like, yeah, just how the song is kind of arranged. I try not to dictate what the horn lines are or what any given melody is, except for maybe the hook, because I want to leave room for the horns to do their thing.
Okay.
You know, put their mark on the song, and
It's
also
like generic like guidelines of how you picture.
yeah, it's like,
and then, like
here are the chords, so the pianos can kind of like, you know, Brandon and Tom are great. They can just hear it and play it. So I'm like, here are the chords, here's the progression. It goes from this section to this section. Here's the parts for this section. Here's the hook line that I have, and the chords that go underneath that. I want to lead it to this next section with these, like those whale sounds that you were hearing. There's just guitar swells with a lot of delay and reverb. So it just like kind of like hums in, and then that's when the bass solo kicks off. And just like this repetitive callback to the original hook in the beginning of the song, but it's like it happens, I want to say, like 3 times throughout the song, but each time it happens, it's just a little bit different because the way the song moves, it modulates from like E minor to the next key, and then it just modulates again where the bass solo starts. But like you hear the line again, and it just kind of calls you back, ties it all together. So like I said, it's just the bones essentially. But like the horn lines in the first section of Odd Family was written, I want to say it was written by Brandon and Quinn. And I can't remember specifically like who like generated the idea first, but they were together on that. And then the main hook line, the bottom bum 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 bum, that was just the thing that I had in my head, because it was something that I was like, when I was originally writing the song, so for like hooks, I usually sing it. I usually try to come up with like a hook line that's like vocal in terms of like how it's played. So I feel like that typically is one of the catchier things. Like, you know, like most pop songs, the hook or the melody is in the vocals, it's in the singer. You know, it's not any particular instrument. The instruments are just there for, you know, backdrop support. You know, just context really.
How did you guys come up with the name Odd Family? Is it because you guys, I don't say you're odd, but like you guys have different musical backgrounds and kind of created this fusion band?
So Odd Family is the Black Sheep crew is like the family that I chose, essentially.
Okay.
And we all have that strong familial bond with each other. You know, we're not just like really close friends. We are family at this point. But when I wrote that song, I was like, this, because it is kind of a strange song. It's kind of got this like weird, like I said, African style rhythm, Latin type beat, and then it switches into this almost like Arabian theme halfway through, and it just goes on this ride, like you said earlier, and it just kind of like made me appreciate everyone's different musical influences within the band, all the things that everybody's into, because everyone's into like just all different types of music, like progressive rock or math rock or melodic or whatever, and then jazz fusion bands like Snarky Puppy, you know, the horn players Quinn and Brent, they're into you know, classic style jazz musicians, and more contemporary like concert band style musicians, and my good buddy Austin, who used to be a guitarist in the band, was into just like, I don't even know what to call it specifically, but maybe like prog metal or like melodic metal or something like that, but just like tying on, and then gospel, and then I have like a blues things, and it's just like all these things kind of come together, and it is strange for all of us to be in a group together essentially. Yeah. So that's kind of why I called it Odd Family, but it was very apropos for who we are and how we feel about each other.
Like that, I feel like the whole fusion thing isn't as crazy as it used to be, or niche market as it used to be. Because I mean, we listen to a lot of music, and you hear all elements of music come together. Like Thomas Rhett has an EDM song, like 1,000%. That's what that song is. It's not a country song; it's an EDM song.
Yep.
And you know, rappers have, you know, pop influences.
They're
and country
singing
stars
more,
rap more, and just
R&B.
I feel like music is kind of molding together,
or like they're not getting pigeonholed. You know, they're letting themselves express.
Yeah,
that's what they really want to do.
They're becoming, like, I say one big example is like Taylor Swift. She started in country. She sang. She played some guitar, and now she is just a music star.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't have a single niche that she plays to. She's just there. I mean, she's a pop star, whatever you want to call it, but she has influences from all sorts of music coming together.
It's kind of like it shows the autonomy that musicians have, that they can I remember talking to you before that you were thinking about kind of going the Gorillaz path and having multiple bands and it just be you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that you didn't, but you weren't going to say Braulio. You were going to say like, what was the one that you had?
Like Mr. Fear or something
Yeah.
like that. Let's just make a band like called Mr. Fear and then have that be like one aspect of all the different types of music.
Then Beats by Braulio.
Yep.
Thing. But yeah, just because you didn't want to be...
We put it out there. The universe made it happen.
True. You didn't want to be beholden to one thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of like what nowadays with the internet and just the access
to everything,
technology and stuff to make music, that makes it possible. Whereas before you were stuck to one thing because the A&R said this is what you're going to be.
Well, you know, it's, and maybe this might be like a controversial topic for big music heads.
Bring it on.
But like, I don't care who you are. You know, if you're just like this punk kid in a punk band, you're just like, I'll never sell out. I'll never do like whatever. I'll never write a pop song or whatever. Like, you want people to listen to your music,
Right.
Like, I don't care. I don't care what you say. If you're in a band, you're
That's the reason why
you're making music because either you want to hear it or you want other people to hear it. And I think the most successful people are people who have something to share
Yeah.
and something to give to everyone. So there's obviously there's going to be people who are just doing it for themselves, but there's absolutely more people who
They have a talent and want to share it.
Yes, and are writing music that they want to be heard. So, like, when people go, like, the route of Taylor Swift, like, the way I saw it was, like, because a lot of people said she was, like, selling out.
Oh, yeah, she went mainstream.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in our country...
What is your opinion on Taylor Swift?
I like her.
She puts
Perfect.
out bangers.
You're in a great company then.
Yeah.
You heard it here. Taylor Swift puts out bangers, and she's great.
Braulio approved.
So, she went from country, because it's where she started.
Right.
That was the music she was listening to. That was the music she was making. But then she kept writing more songs. And there's no way that she didn't write these songs, like, she didn't have, like, a guitar chord progression first. You know, on her first, like, when she made that transition to, like, more pop, when you started to hear that more, like, she absolutely had, it's either guitar or piano. She had it already. So, like, where do you draw the line, especially in America, where you have, like, where country is popular,
Right.
very. So, like, how you define pop music, where you draw the line in between, like, all right, it's not using acoustic instruments or analog.
It's not using a
instruments.
banjo.
Yeah, it's like what are you really asking for at this point? So, but like, she just wanted to write songs that she enjoyed and that she could share with everybody, and she thought other people would like or other people would like latch onto.
And like,
it's the same thing with any artist, really.
She took her life experiences, you know, good choices, bad choices, and shared them because everybody has those same experiences. Right. Everybody's dated the douchey guy, like, and so she wanted to share that with people, and then obviously she is very popular. So there are a lot of people that share that music, and like, to me, that's what music is you're sharing an experience with who made the music.
Yeah,
and there's a reason you're getting pulled towards it.
I mean, yeah, like in her arena tour.
No, she's in Dallas,
video,
right?
Yeah, on Netflix. She had her song. I think it was the one that she sang to Jimmy Fallon, right?
Oh, New Year's Day, yeah.
Yeah, and like just you could see in the crowd how many people like resonated with that, and other songs, you know, she wrote, people felt it, and it's for the people listening, basically.
Yep.
You know, and it's how she wanted to progress as an artist, and you know, I think people sit here, you know, they hear. For instance, an example is Mac Miller. He had his first album was Frat Rap.
Yep.
And then people loved it. You know, it resonated with the younger
And
generation.
when he came out, Frat Rap was huge,
right?
too. Like,
Yeah.
you had
Yes,
Asher
yes, it
Roth,
was.
and like Frat Rap was the rap, like, to do.
And then
he you know,
he progressed.
He changed, wanted to do something he wanted to do because that's what happens. Everybody changes, and then people were like, "Ah, you've changed. I like the old Mac," but you they should have really just enjoyed him instead of just like tearing him down. But
yeah, getting pigeonholed for trying to share, or getting hated on just for trying to share, like, your experiences or your stories with people. That's so crazy to me, especially because that's all music is. It's another art form of storytelling that human beings just use to connect with one another.
Right. Yeah. It's like painting a picture.
So,
or writing a story
like,
or whatever.
yeah.
I mean, and the same thing happened with Mike Posner too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what his whole last album is about. Was basically his transition from when he was doing frat rap.
Yeah. And you know, if
it
it's
fell off, and
he had a struggle, and then he had a couple huge bumps in his road.
well, and then like his song "I Took a Pill in Ibiza," like the popular one is that club remix that everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's getting after it." It's like, no, it is a sad song. Like he's like, "No, I was not happy.
Yeah.
This is why I was doing all this stuff."
And with the Mac Miller thing, like, if you liked Mac Miller because of his first release, then you didn't really like Mac Miller. Because it's his stories and his life and his experiences and the music that he makes through his entire career that is Mac Miller, as opposed to just like one. That's just one part of it.
Yeah.
That's not the entire.
Well, I mean, his song 2009 like completely
Yep.
shows that. Like, he's going through his emotions about, this isn't 2009 anymore. Like, my life is different. It's not. I'm coming up and I'm having all this fun and all these people love me. It's crazy to think that like people get that famous and then you think they have everything they want and they really don't.
Probably have less than what they started with because
at least back then people were real with you,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and like actually liked you, and then for whatever reason you may have lost some of them because you might have changed when you were on your come up and all that stuff,
or people didn't like that anymore.
that lifestyle or whatever. Yeah,
I will say, just to be fair, there is a balance that occurs for every artist in terms of like, because I know this happens to us a lot when we write music. We're always thinking about, like, because like I said, music is being made to share. Mm-hmm. At the same time, you want to present yourself musically like as you are or who you are, but still also like make parts of it that is easy for people to latch onto, because I feel like sometimes if you're too detailed or too specific or like it's just about you, then it's not.
Well, people aren't going to like that then because you're only making it for you.
Yeah,
you're kind of forgetting
that's
the people that are that you were really.
That's the
doing
line.
For.
You're not sharing anything anymore. You're just doing it for yourself. Yeah. And then, but there is that line between the two things where you have to kind of like find the balance on this is us, but we hope you like it.
Yeah.
Type of feel. So.
Well, I mean, that whole topic kind of brings up like you hear it all the time. Like you said about Mac Miller. I mean, I hear it. Like Kanye West is one of my favorite artists ever, and you hear all these people. Oh, I like old Kanye. He's lost. I like old Kanye. Well, old Kanye was in like 2003. Music has changed so much since then. Like
16 years.
If he was still doing music like that, he wouldn't be around because he wouldn't have changed.
Yeah.
And like everyone is like that. Any artist that can stay. I mean, there's a reason why people stay like one-hit wonders and stuff like that. It's because they don't change.
They don't have the talent
with the music.
My favorite artists. Every single album is like totally different from the previous to the next, and it's just like this natural evolution where it's not like they don't change so drastically that it no longer sounds like the same artist or the same band, but it's just like a very natural progression. Like I listen to this band called Mute Math, and they're phenomenal. Like from their first record to the most recent one. Some of their more recent stuff is like very synthy, very electronic. But the record previous to that was like super like kind of like messy blues, but still like funky and just it was really cool. And And then prior to that was like alternative music, and it's just like it tied to each other very, very nicely. But yeah, like bands like that. I'm trying to think of another artist that I listen to. Childish Gambino.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely like that from his like mixtapes to what he is now. It's progressive.
If you listen to his early stuff and then you listen to his more recent things like Redbone, that song that's a straight up just like Funkadelics.
Yeah, well, that whole album
was
basically a funk album. Yeah,
but it's a complete departure from
what he was
all
doing
the other
before,
stuff that he's done before. It's just like that transition, but it still sounded like Childish Gambino to me. So like I didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I heard that I knew that heard that and they're like, oh, him, I don't like this. I'm like, well, then you don't really like him,
right?
Like if that's the thing, like because he was like you said, he was still definitely 100% there.
Yeah.
It's just it wasn't his normal rap that they had been listening to, but it was still Donald. Like,
absolutely.
Like it was 100% him.
Well, like you said before when we had a conversation, you said if your favorite band, didn't change ever, you probably wouldn't like them.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be that natural change. I mean, like back to Kanye West, he literally probably helped change how rap and hip hop was in the future with 808s and Heartbreaks.
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that.
I hated that album when it first came out. I was like, oh, what is all this?
Way ahead of its time,
Why is he going like? Why is he like T-Pain?
Heavy on auto-tune.
Like why?
It was very sad and sincere.
Oh, yeah.
And then now you look at what's really hot in the streets right now. It's sad auto-tune that really, hits deep.
Yeah, I like to call sad boy rap.
Sad boy.
Yeah.
Boy rap.
But I mean, he did that in 08.
Yeah, right.
Like, he did that 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
And then what was it? Yeezus was way ahead of its time.
Yeah, it's
where it was another really like fusion. Like it was almost like it wasn't a rock album, but it was like hard.
Definitely different from what he had done before, and it was very direct and to the point, and just. But like you look to me, that album is aging very well.
Yeah,
like I liked it when it came out. I like it. I mean, I'm very partial to him. He's my favorite artist. But like I said, I didn't like 808s when it first came out. But like Yeezus, I think has aged really well. His first 3 albums, they're kind of in that
I would say
mid to early 2000s rap category where that's
one and two
for sure.
Probably didn't age.
They still had skits on their albums.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a 21-track album or something like that. Long.
Graduation was right when he started
getting into
pop,
auto-tune.
but yeah, like he was more mainstream and changing with the times, but also just things he does with like sampling and like all that.
Yep.
That brings me back to another conversation we had about like artists and you said there were stages between someone progresses in music. Like there's the trumpeter, musician.
Oh yeah, just like that musician, or just like a how I would say like someone who plays an instrument versus a musician versus an artist. I feel like there's a definite separation between those things where you could say that someone who plays an instrument, they could maybe be proficient at it, but they're just either doing it for a hobby or they're not, that's like all they do is play that instrument and they're kind of like in that bubble, whereas a musician is, much more professional, is like expanding their horizons in terms of their musicality. And then an artist is like the final progression where it's an art form for you now, where you're making music, no matter what it is or how you're doing it. If you're using pots and pans or stupid,
it's more about
or train whistles.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that song you thought?
It's not. I thought there were train whistles. Amazing, I believe, or not amazing.
Was it Runaway?
No, it's not Runaway.
I'm just teasing. But like,
I still don't think there was train whistles.
I mean, you have people who are making music with next to nothing.
Well, I mean, if you like one of the biggest things in New Orleans, you go down Bourbon, and there's kids on 5-gallon buckets drumming.
Yep.
In Detroit, right outside of Tiger Stadium, or Comerica, not Tiger Stadium. But,
yeah, like they're to me like the artist part, like a trumpeter, musician, there's definitely a difference. You know, a person that plays one instrument,
Heartless.
heartless.
There's definitely probably can't play this. Probably can't play this.
Don't want to.
But there's definitely train whistles in that.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna
Anyway.
get this video flagged.
But like, yeah. So you know, one person's playing one thing that's probably based off of sheet music. No, like, I don't want to say they're not creative, but there's probably just seeing what they could play. You know, it's a progression of learning. You're learning it, so you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then musician, you broaden your horizon. You start doing maybe a guitar instead of just a trumpet. So you start doing multiple. So you know now you're in the musician category. But then art, you get behind the theory of things, like why things are here, what goes here to that bridge this gap. That
It's the next level of care.
Yeah.
And the next level of attentiveness from being a musician to being an artist, and really like fine-tuning your craft to the point where like there's this little barrier between what's in here and how you achieve that in terms
the
of
creative
yes,
part.
exactly.
You're
Exactly.
moving from playing someone else's creation to then going, how do I create something of my own?
Yeah, I would take it even farther than that, because maybe not necessarily like even playing somebody else's creation, but like because there are tons of people out there making music on their laptops, like I said, with nothing. But
Would you
not,
would consider them an artist?
I wouldn't consider them artists,
Okay.
not all of them, because some of it's crap.
Okay.
Like,
okay.
sorry.
So quality
It's-
does play a role into being the next step.
I mean, absolutely. If you don't, you have to achieve a certain level of talent within whatever facet of that you know, of any career that you're doing to even be labeled an artist. So you have to be good at it. You can't just be like, no one's just an okay artist.
I can't just do this.
You can't just be like, I'm not an artist just because I did something. Like, you have to. It has to be crafted like well, and that's like that. That's the hardest jump, and maybe it's not even a huge jump, but it's absolutely like the most daunting jump from being a musician to being an artist. You know, to being a true craftsman of music. Just
So,
like all
so
the
you would
little
consider that
details.
somebody like a musician who can arrange the music, take all the individual pieces and put them together to make one track. They would be an artist to you. And then somebody who just sings and gets their music and all that stuff from someone else would be what, just a musician?
I would say, yeah,
So-
pretty close. I don't want to like try to quantify it in terms of like, you know, like
This specifically,
like this
yeah.
point, this point, this point, this point, this
Yeah.
point, and then you're an artist.
Yeah.
It is
You
a
check
very
all these boxes.
It's a very vague, like.
Is it just kind of one of those
Path
things that
to
you
get
just
there.
like feel like you could just like that person's an artist?
I mean, absolutely. Like, why do you guys gravitate to any artist that you just like really love? Like, it just clicks, it just works.
Yeah.
You know, and I think we talked about Kanye
Yeah.
a few days ago, where like he can just like if he
Pluck
needs
something out
if
of
he
the
just
air.
needs something for a song, he's just like pulls it from nothing
Yeah.
and just like makes a song, and like that in itself is artistry.
So we have this conversation all the time. Like people like Taylor Swift that are maybe even Kanye, where people don't really understand his art because they hear
They just don't feel
Understand.
it. Well, like to me, like
they
people
see
think
his outside persona.
he's an asshole, so
Yeah,
I don't like his
Absolutely.
music.
Absolutely.
Cool. Like
I
so,
felt
so
the same way about John Mayer when I first got into him. I
Whoa.
was like, he was a dickhead.
Whoa.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, but
I
he's
mean,
still
look,
an amazing
he's
artist.
way
Like,
mellow now. He's
he
super
used to
mellow
be a
now.
douche.
Yes.
He
He's-
probably got his
I mean,
PR
that's
agent
why
in there.
that's why
Look,
Taylor wrote
no,
songs about
He
him.
is super mellow now, and I like him. I like the guy.
But yeah, so we're talking about these things with people, and they're like, Taylor Swift's trash, not an artist. Kanye West's trash, not an artist, or just even why am I forgetting his name? Concert you went to in Grand Rapids and you saw.
Oh, Thomas Rhett.
Thomas Rhett, yeah.
TR.
TR. Just they, because they aren't the traditional country or that lane.
Because they didn't stay in their lane.
Yeah, and they consider them not artists or that they're not good. Like Taylor Swift is the main one, where she probably has some people writing for her, but a lot of country stars do. A lot of pop
a lot
stars
of people do in general.
But
like,
do you consider someone like that, where maybe they're not doing all, which I think she does.
we're not doing 100, or they're not like Beck, where they composed their entire album, played every instrument on. Like I mean,
right.
That was one of the big ones that I remember from a few years
Okay.
ago.
Are they still artists in your opinion, or is at what where is that point?
So, if I were to ask you, like, how do you quantify that? Like, would like Da Vinci be an artist if he only made one work of art? Like, does he need to make more? Do those other ones need to be as good as the first one for him to be an artist? Like, do you have to attain? Once you attain that title, do you lose it if you stop doing it?
I mean, I feel like it's just like you said though. It's hard to quantify, and you shouldn't. Like,
right,
you absolutely should.
I do agree. There's a point where quality is in there, and once you hit the quality mark, I think you're an artist.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
The way I see it is, if you can do it, you're an artist. You know, if you're able to break through that barrier and make something that is unique to you, that just can't be replicated because it is you, then you're an artist. Like, I don't care if, like Adele had songs written for her. Like, I think one of her most popular songs was written by somebody else, but they wanted her to sing it, so they gave it to her. And
it still takes a lot of talent to sing.
I mean, there's that. But like, where do you so if she did that song, but then also wrote another thing that got super popular, is she not an artist because she did this other thing, even though she created this work of art somewhere else? Like, no, you're an artist.
We're on the same page.
If you achieve it, you're there.
It was just one of my biggest pet peeves was like specifically with the Beck thing. Like, there's that big whole blow up of Beyonce should have won the Grammy over Beck or whatever that was. Everyone just kept pointing, well, he does all this, and this, and she had 17 co-writers. So?
Yeah, she still put out great music. She still had to,
have the talent.
All those writers could write those songs for me, and I would do so bad. I would not come close. So, yeah, she in herself had to produce that art.
It's just one of those things that gets me, and it's not even just in music, but it's just like, you don't have to, like, just because I like Game of Thrones doesn't mean you need to like it. Like, I think there's such a huge, I mean, I don't know if it's part of the online culture now or whatever, but it's like, oh, you don't like something I like, you're an idiot. It's like, but it's huge. I mean, you hear and see it all the time.
Look, I'll tell you this right now. It's not an internet thing. That's just people.
It's people.
Because all the internet is just everyone being in the same.
They're exposed.
In the same room.
Yeah.
They're just in the same room yelling at each other now.
Well, I mean, that brings up this point. Like, I've heard so many stuff. Oh, Facebook and also social media makes more narcissists.
No, people were already
narcissists. Now everyone can just see
now,
it.
Now you just talk to them.
Everybody was a douche. Everybody was an asshole. Everybody was a racist. Everybody was this.
It was just confined to the people they interacted with.
Who also thought like that.
Now it is.
Nothing's changed.
Now it's a mass-produced thing, and everyone can see it.
So, bouncing off social media. I don't want to get too political.
No, let's go down this rabbit hole.
How has social media helped music and musicians and artists as a whole?
So, realistically, I won't say that it's not like a double-edged sword. Because having what the internet has done and what social media has done is given you a way to essentially for free, it's just like marketing yourself for nothing.
Everybody's now their PR agent.
Exactly. But that being said, everybody in the world is doing it.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of excess noise, and it doesn't always. Sometimes it leads to nothing. For some artists, there's almost no point because it doesn't do anything. But if you don't do it, then you're just screwed basically, because you can't not do it at this point. You have to be active in social media to be successful as an artist, because that's just the way the world is now. But it's not always fair. It's not always easy. You don't get anywhere near as many returns in terms of all the effort that you might put into it.
There's so much going on the
yeah,
internet
it's just
now. It's like you're scrolling past.
Well, I mean,
And
it's not even just with music. I think it's with everything.
It's everything.
Like,
Absolutely.
we have some friends that have gotten off Facebook and they're like, I don't know why you're still on. I was like, we gotta be.
Yeah.
I mean, if we are not on Facebook with our coffee shop, we're done.
I couldn't just get rid of my Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm in a band. I'm playing music, and I try to promote that music. So
Right.
like, I have to be active to some extent. Like, I can't just be non-existent on there.
But also on the other side, like, the access to, like, you could literally put out a song, and someone in Bangladesh could listen to it, like it, and then
they got their VPN.
communicate to you, and you could
Maybe go play in Bangladesh.
right. One day he tells one friend and all that, but you could talk to your fans, or you could talk to people that like your music, or people that are interested in music, and that you could, get influences from that area of the world and create something else, which then
like
can,
you said, it was
African. It's
and
absolutely,
all those
like I said earlier, it's a double-edged sword. I think it works better for people who are kind of like in niche categories of just like creative things, because like as a jazz fusion fan, like Spotify is never gonna make like a
jazz fusion
top
list.
hundreds jazz fusion songs of this
But
year.
they could.
I mean, they could.
If
Maybe somebody, like a user-generated playlist exists somewhere, but like they themselves are never going to be like, this is the hottest stuff coming out of wherever right now, because it's just not. It's not a big thing. But I have the access to go find that,
Right.
and because of how small those communities are, it's a lot easier for someone to come find that niche thing that they might be interested in. I think when it comes to like more popular, generalistic things, that's where the most noise is, and there's so much noise in that sometimes it drowns out those other niche things.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a trade. Like you just can't avoid it. But at the same time, like, depending on what you're doing, it can be easy. It's still difficult. It's very contrary to itself. Like it's easy for people to find it. It's difficult to get exposed. It's like those are like completely counter.
It's like an oxymoron.
Exactly.
Like what? Everyone can find my stuff, but it's hard to get people to look at it.
Everybody can see your stuff,
but it's hard to get people
nobody is looking at
Yeah.
it. And it's like, how does that work? And it just that's the nature of social media, and people don't spend a lot of time. Like when they look for something, they want to find it immediately.
Oh yeah, it's instant gratification.
Yep,
100%.
You know what's crazy though? Talking about like artists and musicians and the person that plays one instrument. We talked about this earlier, but like the connection in other things in life that is also an art is crazy.
Yeah.
Do you want another beer?
I'm good.
Okay. Like one of the examples I had was being a bartender and being a mixologist is that next step to being an artist.
Yeah, I would say so.
Like a bartender, speaking from experience, can look at a recipe and go, I can make that. You get the basic rudimentary, like, oh, this goes together with this, this is better with this.
And kind of why they do it a little bit. But
but then you
don't really think of the theory behind why.
Right, and I think that's really what pushes you to be an artist, learning the theory. Like running a coffee shop. The amount of stuff we learn on espresso or just coffee alone in 1 8-hour session
was
ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
You can change the way something tastes. A shot of espresso, a pour over, whatever it is, just by changing the grind size a little bit, and you get way different.
You get a completely different flavor.
And so, starting to learn those theories behind coffee and music and mixing drinks is where the art really shows in, and then it's just crazy that in every aspect of life there is that next level
of artistry.
Yeah.
Or mastery.
Yeah. It becomes more in like for the individual, it's more intuitive on aspect of what you're doing. There's more intent. You're not just following a recipe, as you said, or like just the common knowledge of like, oh, sage works with this, and like sage butter, like just like generalistic things like that. Like that's, I don't want to say it's like common knowledge, but like up to a certain degree, it's just out there for anyone to know.
Italian
but like
seasoning.
But to
Throw
really
it on
exactly,
pasta.
but like to experiment and through experimentation have an intuition on how to achieve something that maybe you've never tried before, but then be successful on the first try just because you already had this prior experience. Even though you've never done this thing before, you were able to intuit how to achieve it.
Yeah. I mean, we've done that.
And that's the artistry.
Kind of some with our drinks.
Yeah.
We've had experience. I mean, it's been a short experience. Don't get me wrong. We've only been doing this stuff since like June.
And I would still say if you compared us from like trumpeter to musician to artist, I think we're still in the middle stage.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, go on.
I mean, but like, so we just do some, like today we made kind of a crazy drink that we're just, like we have one idea that we're going to do it specifically for cold brew, but then I was like, let me shake this up in the cocktail shaker, or let's do a hot version of this. And it's still able to be decent because we've had experience making stuff. Like we've had terrible, like we tried to make a peppermint cold brew. It was trash. It's probably one of the worst things I've ever made with coffee, just because it just, ugh. But like we know that we can't use that, so we use these dry spices in our cold brew sometimes. We generally know how much we're going to have to use with our volume that we make.
Based on previous experiences.
Yeah, based on, I mean, and
we're just cooking.
How much cold brew have we made since June? I can't even
100 gallons plus.
Probably. So like we have that general formula down, and then we can say, well, we use this much nutmeg in this one, so maybe we should use this much pepper in this one, and like, so you can kind of
or know that nutmeg's a more prominent spice
than
cinnamon.
I shouldn't put that much in there this time.
Even though you want to, like,
this looks good.
Yeah.
So it's just it's that. I mean, I think back to what you were saying. It's just that roadmap to mastery or artistry or whatever, and it can be in just everything in life, not necessarily music or movies or whatever. It's just you put in that 10,000 hours.
Yeah, I was gonna say 10,000
yeah, exactly.
hours.
Anything that you might not even consider to be an art, like obviously like architecture, painting, calligraphy, literature, music, like those are very generalistic forms of art. But
I mean, you can even go off the beaten path a little bit, like football coaches, people who make plays.
Right.
People don't think of them as artists or being masters.
I mean, it's intuitive because, like I said, you have to. There's some level that you have to achieve a proficiency to where it becomes so intuitive, where you can make decisions on almost no information.
Yeah.
And like, but for whatever reason, they're the right decisions.
Yeah.
And it just works. Like when you guys are talking about making new drinks and you're trying something for the first time ever, you have no idea how it's going to turn out. It turns out great, and it's just like all of that past experience that you've had, regardless if you've tried this particular thing at any given time, you're able to intuit it. So, and it just, like you said, it applies to everything.
I mean, a common one is cooking. You watch all these cooking shows, and you're like, man, how did these guys on Chopped get given this basket and can make anything out of it? It's because they've been cooking for 20 years.
Depending on how far you take it, like if you take it far enough, you're just going to be an artist at it.
As a musician artist, what has influenced you to go down the road that you are? Like ending up in a jazzy fusion and starting to kind of expand on being in a band to like starting to produce your own stuff, starting to do all these different types of musical
So, for me specifically, I wouldn't even say it was jazz fusion, like, that I latched onto. It was just music in general. Because when I was in high school, I want to say it was my senior year when I just got this really simplistic, software to write music on, and without even, like, owning or having any knowledge of how those instruments sounded or how to play them, I just started writing music on the software, and it could play it back to me. It was really archaic, and it really sounded really bad. It was very digital sounding, but like just the excitement I had in creating something, I latched onto that really early, I think. So when I had the opportunity to write music and perform it, like that's what I really love. I love writing music, and I love performing that music because I love sharing that music. So, like, it doesn't even matter that it's jazz fusion. Like, jazz fusion allows me to be more experimental on how I handle things, and I can draw inspiration from almost anything. Like,
like we said earlier, it doesn't put you in a box.
Exactly. And like, one of the songs on the upcoming record, Odd Family, called Prospero, like, I was watching, you probably hear this from me a lot, is like, I just watch, like, interviews or videos or just, like, really generalistic knowledge stuff of, like, industry giants, like, talking about how they do things. And I was watching a video on Hans Zimmer, famous for
movies.
Yep, huge movie composer. Dark Knight, Lion King. He's got a huge repertoire. But he was talking about how he likes to start off in the major key when he's writing really dark and brooding type music. And I was like, that's kind of counterintuitive. Like, usually, like, when you imagine the major key, it's the happy sounding.
I imagine
aspect.
DJ Khaled, major key.
But
True.
it's counterintuitive in a sense. But when I wrote the song Prospero, I, like, latched onto that idea, and I was like, all right, let me start in A flat major, and try to make it this, like, really, like, dark and brooding kind of, like, but it's still grooved song, and it turned out really well. And I just thought I draw inspiration from just anything that I observe, and I'm like, that's just a cool idea. Let me try it, and then I'll try it, and I'll go for it, and I come up with this thing.
So you're more trial and error kind of. How you work is like you hear something or see something or kind of vibe with a certain thing, and you're like, let me see if I can put my own spin on it.
Well, yeah, it's like I do that with a lot of things. Like, if I'm writing music, it's because, especially, like, if for a given song, if I write a song and somebody comes up to me after a show and like, that song reminds me of this, and it's like, well, I wrote that song because I heard that, and I was like, that's not exactly what I wanted to hear when I heard that song. Let me do it the way that I want to hear it.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a little narcissistic to say, but
But does it excite you that maybe someone pulled what your inspiration was and, like, hit it on the head, like, oh, you pulled from this song, and then they said that reminds me of that
yeah,
song?
that is exciting. And sometimes, like, I remember when I first started, like, I was like, sometimes, like, every once in a while, it would just come a little too close, and it's like, all right, I gotta be a little bit more creative with how I evoke the same
Feelings and tones.
It's basically just nostalgia, honestly, and, like, it's a familiar sound, but it's presented in a new way, and you just latch onto it because it is familiar still. And so that's usually how I come up with stuff, In the case of the song Prospero with the Hans Zimmer thing, I had nothing to base it off of. Just the idea to start in a major key, but make it sound like a dark, brooding track. But, like, with the song Odd Family, where I was listening to African-style rhythms, and I was like, well, let me put Latin chord progressions.
By the
over it.
way, you definitely nailed the Latin part.
Yeah.
It came out
Yeah.
real heavy. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I feel like I'm,
Nicky Arms.
yeah, I'm in the tropics right now, and I think it was a lot of guitar and strings in that portion.
There's a guitar in the whole song has a lot of guitar stuff in it, actually. It starts
you wrote
on guitar.
it. Coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, that is my instrument of choice. I've been messing with violin a little bit, so I think the next record is going to be more string heavy. But speaking on Odd Family, a lot of the songs that I wrote for Odd Family, I do feel like have very strong Latin ties to it. And I feel like it's just partially just because of who I am. Being born in Puerto Rico, my father from Puerto Rico. I just have a natural acclimation to that, you know. And then growing up, and like one of my favorite guitar players is Carlos Santana. I just have that natural inclination towards that. But it works for jazz and blues really, really well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of crossover between Latin and African, and it's just a lot of different cultures around the world. Some things they just cross over really well. When it comes to writing the songs, I usually draw from a singular piece of inspiration, and then I try to take the idea and to make it what I want to hear and what I want other people to hear from me. I know that's kind of like a very generalistic statement, but that's basically my process. It's not a very complicated process, but it works.
Yeah.
My Odd Family came out of it. I'm really happy with Prospero. Everybody in the band seems to like Prospero. Doublespeak came out of it like that. Everyone likes Doublespeak. They're bangers, man. Jazz fusion bangers, man.
He just put the banger stamp on the album. How does that come out, by the way?
So we don't have an official date lined up yet.
2019.
Very likely to be June. Sometime in June. I can almost guarantee that particular month. There's a kind of a window we're shooting for in terms of release. And we want to have it around the same time that we released our EP.
What was that last year?
Mm-hmm. Early last year. Summertime.
Summertime. So, like May or June. So, like when we moved in the car unit, you had almost just released it.
Yes, we got it in there early June.
Or was it a year before that?
No, it was when you first started in the car unit.
Yeah, so June.
I think it was already out.
June of 2018.
Right.
It was already out.
And so was it? So, but it was like 1 or 2 months prior.
God, when you first got in there, maybe like a month, maybe a month and a half.
Okay.
At most, I would guess.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it just came out, and then you guys were doing your thing, and I was like, Tristan's, you guys selling coffee out downtown.
I didn't
Check
even
it out.
know, like, I mean, I've been so far removed from Battle Creek for the last 5 years. Because you knew you were in bands.
Yeah.
Right?
think
Like you were
so.
I had
I
no
don't
clue.
know.
But speaking of performing, you said that once you performed and you kind of got into that realm, that's what you really, really enjoyed because you like sharing.
Yeah.
How is it like to perform and how did you get to that point where you knew you wanted to perform? Because I'm sure at first you didn't think about it, but maybe not. I don't know.
So,
or did you always want to perform?
I didn't, like I said, when I got into music heavy, I wanted to quit. And then I just wanted to learn my instrument, trumpet, as much as I could. And like anything, the better you get at it, the more fun you have with it.
Right.
And the more fun you have with it, I think the more you want to have fun doing that thing with other people.
Yeah.
And then when you do that with other people, being in a band, other people want to see that, and it's just like this, I feel like it's just the natural progression of becoming an artist.
Anything really.
Yeah, like I
The
said.
thing I could probably most closely relate to is like football.
Yep.
You first play because you want to play it,
Right.
but then you kind of get the rush of playing in front of people because you're good enough to play in front of people, and people like watching football, and people who are good at it. And so it's just kind of really the same thing, just a different skill.
Yeah, and
You're not directly thinking about that, but subconsciously you're thinking about it.
it's exciting.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. And I mean, I think I've gotten to the point where, like, even if I'm not playing to anybody, I'm still gonna have a good time.
Yeah.
Just playing anyway, just because that's how I am with music.
You
how
now
much I
enjoy
love it.
performing and playing more than you. I mean, I guess really playing than you enjoy the performance part. It's all like encumbered.
I would say, like I said, I still enjoy it. I will hands down say that if the crowd there's absolutely like this symbiotic relationship between the performers and the crowd, because how they're receiving the music, there's like this exchange of energy between you and them, where it's just like it gets more and more exciting as it goes on, and
Where you kind of
Well, it's like feeding off the energy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
vibe off of them, and like
So-
you see, oh, they're liking this.
Yeah.
Awesome. What I'm doing is worth it.
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I can still have a blast playing to nobody, but I hands down have just a grand ass time playing to people who are like into what I'm doing, and then I'll just return all of that love right back to them, or I'll try to.
I mean, we definitely experienced that on Music Mondays at DC Cargo.
Yeah.
That was probably the most lit venue that
Probably
Braulio's
the
ever
yeah,
I
played at.
still go back and listen to that video that was recorded.
Really?
It was like that one
That
rainy
live
day.
video that
Yeah,
that we played for
long
like
one.
an hour and a half or whatever.
Yeah. I was like, I gotta remember some of these riffs because
I was just killing it.
I was having a good ass time. Like there was some like botched moments where I was like,
Yeah.
I had no tact on that one note that like bumped out.
But do venues where like say like that where there was us and probably two other people
Yeah.
at most, are those times where like you I don't want to say feel more free, but lack of better terms, you feel more free and like kind of enjoy the purity of
Well, you
performing.
got to experiment.
Yeah.
Do whatever you wanted.
So this might come off narcissistic
Oh,
again.
here we go.
But so I learned really on for a few different reasons. Playing in front of people in general, you have to kind of get over the fear of playing in front of people, which in a way kind of means you can't care what people think of you, which again is kind of like counterintuitive to
Yeah.
wanting to share something with
Right.
people but not
Yeah.
caring what they think. But
Because you obviously do.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean to some extent you have to.
But to be able to be completely free and play,
You have to
you have
not
to not
care.
give a shit with something.
It's like
if
some
someone likes
Avatar
it or not.
shit.
Yeah.
It's like 3 chakras ago, you just told me loving was okay, and now you want me to let go, and it's like, that's just how it is. But so I learned very early on to just not care what other people think and express myself as much as I possibly can, and in anything, and somebody is gonna enjoy it.
One is greater than zero.
Yeah, I don't care who it is. If I can, there was one show where I played and in my old band, Okay Bear, and this is when I was singing and I wrote the song.
You sing too?
Yeah.
God, he's such
So,
an artist.
but
I need to get you in here and get a mic.
eventually, man, it's gonna happen. But
Your body is a wonderland on ukulele.
But I wrote this song called 28th Street Bridge, and it was a song about just dealing with depression and other stuff like that, and kind of like the not so great thoughts that follow suit with that. And someone came up to me after the show, and they told me when I sang that song and I played it, like, they just like it like broke them and they were crying, but it was like a good experience, and I didn't know how to react to that because like I wrote that song because I felt that sharing that would have that effect on somebody, and I didn't care who it was. Like as long as I make that one connection with that one person, and it's a positive connection, then I'm set. Right. I'm okay. Like I'm doing great, and I didn't know how to react to it though because I was like,
I mean, it's still an
I couldn't say like, well,
feeling,
thank you. It's like I made you cry.
Well, I mean, it's what you intended, but it's still an awkward.
I intended to evoke a feeling, and I wanted you to have a good time with it, but it's not always a glamorous thing. But if it helps people, and if it's like this positive energy that you share across it, no matter what the subject is, I live for that, man. I love that. I love that connection between artists and people, and that's why I play it. So, yeah. Even if it's just one person, I don't care. It can be 1, 100, 1,000, 1,000,000. I don't care. As long as somebody gets me and I get them, and it's a positive thing, I'm good.
So as a person that's been doing music or playing instruments for, you said, better part of a decade or plus.
God. Yeah.
And you said you were in concert band, in marching band. The performing aspect is kind of different because, like, so concert and marching, you're pretty much, so like with marching, you're at an event that, for the most part, like a football game or something, that has a captive audience, and you're kind of filler, not to degrade it or anything, but
absolutely.
That's basically what it is.
Most people are there for the football game,
right? So then going to a band where your intent is to have fans, so people that you perform that know you for you and your music. What is that, I guess, feeling when you start seeing people going there for you, and you're starting to get bigger crowds, and you know what I'm saying, like that progression from maybe people going because they're your family members or whatever, or that they want to support a school's program, to then people going for Minor Element or Braulio. Like how does that make you feel?
It's exciting. I love it. Like I said, like it's because like if you make anything and you make it well, somebody's going to like it. Right. And maybe it's not always the case that somebody in your area or somebody that can come to your show is going to like it, like depending on how available people are. But like and I feel this way with Minor Element, where like so many people are genuinely into what we're doing, and then they show up.
Like, have you seen that switch?
Where I see like the same people showing up, where they don't have to show up at all. It's like they're just there every show. Yeah, I've seen that. It's happening more and more often. And it's more and more people. And I had one of our shows in Canada at the Fog Lounge are some of my favorite experiences.
Do you guys have a good fan base in Canada, or is it just a...
Honestly, like every time we've gone there so far, like people just like the people that are there at the Fog Lounge just end up loving us, and they're like, you gotta come back, we want to see you again.
So it kind of started out like you went there one time, just maybe not on a whim.
So the Fog Lounge regulars are there,
and then
they hear you play, and then they know you're going to be there, so then they go there.
It's a music venue, so people go there and they like expecting to hear music, and that's what I love about that scene in Canada is like they're just so into music. They want to go to whatever show they can, and the Fog Lounge is one of those spots. They'll come hear us, and they just want to hear more. They're fans at that point. And then sing them again the next time. And the next time we went there, I think it was even more packed than the first time. So it's like we obviously had even more people, like just by word of mouth, probably just like, so-and-so told me I should come here, so like we just had to come.
Especially having that EP out on iTunes.
Yeah.
And
that was a big
then,
help.
Like people could,
listen.
Minor Element. Okay, like, okay, yeah. That's kind of how happened for me at was it Hill Valley, High Valley?
High Valley.
I said it the first
said
time.
that too.
But
He's in Back to the Future.
he was just like, hey, there's this concert in Grand Rapids.
At the intersection,
and I
let's
live
go.
there. And I was like, sure, whatever.
Yeah, like I have Sirius radio in my truck, and I listen to the Highway, which is the country station, and they always have like that station prides itself on finding up and coming artists, and then like putting them on, and they have a tour that they do that with, and like I just heard about it online or on the radio, and they're like, oh yeah, they're gonna be in Grand Rapids. So I was like, oh, I've heard one of their songs.
I've never.
It's a $10 ticket. Let's go. Like I like music. I like live music. Let's go.
But like ever since then, I've been a fan.
Yeah,
like I'm not super fan, but like if they decide to come back to Grand Rapids, I'd probably highly
go.
consider. Yeah.
You go to the show.
So it's kind of like what you're saying. Like you just build, and then eventually you get to a point where you're like, all right, maybe we need an arena.
I don't want to. I don't want to.
You don't want that.
I don't want an arena.
So where's the perfect?
Where do you draw the line?
Yeah, where's the perfect spot?
I would
for you
say
guys, for
like
you, or
theater
you guys?
size.
Theater size?
In terms of like state theater.
Okay.
Or like it is a large venue. And maybe it's not as intimate as some of the best concerts I've been to, but it still retains some level of that, whereas opposed to an arena where it's just noise at that point. You're there to just party, really.
Yeah.
You're just there to be with other people at an artist show, and it's about like the bombastic show itself, and not so much the music and the intimacy between the artist and the individuals.
Well, I mean, when we went and saw Kenny,
Yeah.
Ford Field, that's 1,000%
party,
what that is.
You're there for a light show or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
instead of
I went to see Old Dominion open. Like, that's the only reason I bought those tickets. But then we had a great time
So
listening to
anything else?
Thomas
I was
Rhett
gonna
and
say,
Kenny.
I'm absolutely not dogging that, because I went and saw
Yeah.
21 Pilots and Mute Math over in Grand Rapids at the arena, and
It's still a smaller arena, but still big.
it's
not
larger than what
intimate.
I would personally like to play at. But to see one of my favorite bands, Mute Math, and 21 Pilots, that I'm also a huge fan of, like
It's icing on the cake.
it was. Well, I mean, 21 Pilots was the headlining act, and then like I think it was like a month or two before that show happened. I already had the tickets. Mute Math like joined the tour, and I was like, "This is wonderful! This is so amazing! I'm gonna go see Mute Math." And it was just awesome. And 21 Pilots,
They put on a show.
they know how to rock an arena. They know how to fucking kill an arena show.
Me and my friend Seth wanted to go
absolutely.
so bad to one because we saw a music special on some cable channel, and we were just like, I mean, we used to play Mario Kart to their music, and then we saw this and we're like, oh my god, that would be so amazing to go to. But like you said, they're putting on a show.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily trying to be intimate, but they're putting on a show.
Well, I mean, for artists like 21 Pilots, their fans, their entire fan base, what is it called?
Banditos?
The Skeleton Clique, I think
Yeah.
is actually what it is. But they're absolutely into that music because 21 Pilots makes very like meaningful,
Yeah.
intentional music, especially like story wise. But like people are there because they love that. But then 21 Pilots absolutely puts on a show to make it an experience.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say one of the bigger, because I've been to a few. I didn't used to be a live music person. I was like, concerts, whatever.
They're definitely a smaller venue. Concert person.
The first no kidding concert I ever went to was the Foo Fighters in 08 at the Joe. And I didn't even know what to expect. I was like, it's a big arena thing, but like, I guess it's kind of what you make it, because yes, it was a big arena, but it felt intimate to me because like I love the Foo Fighters. Like my favorite, one of my favorite songs is Everlong. Like one of my all-time favorites. And then oh my god, they did the half acoustic set. Like Dave started by himself on a stool, just playing Everlong by himself, and then they finished it full electric, just jam out party. And like it was in an arena, but it was intimate, like because it was that song. And like he also, I know artists do this in every place they go. Like we saw it with Kenny. He plays this, he does this thing where he talks to the crowd.
Right.
And him, it seemed very forced.
It was very scripted.
Like when Dave was on his stool strumming and telling us the story of the first time he was in Detroit, that didn't seem staged. That was like him legitimately telling those tens of thousands of people, you know, I was in this shitty band and we were in a van and we left all of our money on the gas pump. And we drove an hour and a half and then realized we didn't have it. And we had to turn around and just pray to God that that duffel bag was still there, and it was. But like that's something I feel like I'm always going to kind of remember because it was just, he made, I guess it's the artist that can do that too, but he made it seem like he was telling me that story, not an arena full of people.
But like Kenny, like you said,
it was forced.
And so
he did that at every arena he went to.
And like Thomas Rhett in the same venue, same concert, seemed a little bit more connecting.
Yeah.
I mean, even though he was always wearing the hometown's jersey.
Yeah, I mean, he was wearing the Lions jersey in Detroit. In Seattle, he was wearing the Seahawks. But his didn't seem as forced as Kenny's. That like Kenny was on a script. Like you could tell this was what he was talking about.
So I mean, like Dave Grohl in particular, that dude's had a life.
Yeah.
Like
for sure.
He could talk about any part of
his
life.
I mean, that dude had a life when he was done with Nirvana.
When he was 18.
And then he then he started the Foo Fighters. Like,
so I mean, like to be able to, I think he's really good at sharing stories, and I think that's why he's such a good songwriter. But yeah, it's not like that situation of just like leaving something behind a gas pump, like that could happen to anybody, honestly.
Yeah, but like I mean, it just felt so genuine and real, and like I said, it felt like he was telling me that story.
He was in a place, and he was like, "This reminds me of this really dumb thing I did one time," and it's just.
Like you said, it could happen to anybody, so that's how
it probably has happened to everybody.
He's had such a crazy life. Like, he's got so many stories he can tell, and you can see that in like his songwriting, and a lot of the interviews that he does, and a lot of the he's directed a couple of films now too, like Sound City, and I can't remember what else, but he's just into a lot of things, and he's got stories to tell, and rightfully so with how long he's been in the industry.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he said he dropped out of high school, and he's like, and I'm telling all you, stay in school.
Yep.
This luckily happened to me. I dropped out when I was 17 to join a dumb band that failed.
I think it was Scream. I think the band was called Scream.
And then I happened to get hooked up with this other band that made it work for me.
Right.
But yeah, it's just... I don't know. It's just that. I guess that's part of the artistry. It's like, yeah, he can write songs, but he can also just tell the shit out of a story and make you feel as connected as Susan over there.
Yes.
Who has none of your same life experiences, but that song connects you to, which is, it's just nuts. It's like, I mean, it's not just music, it's books, stories, movies, all that stuff. It's crazy how that stuff can just bring people together.
So, what is in the master plan for Braulio?
Master plan.
Like,
dropping sick beats.
I know you said you didn't want to get to a point where you're performing in arenas, but like, if you could write your life, bones, put down the bones.
Put down the bones.
Down
okay.
the bones.
So, what I want to do is essentially, and maybe I'll get a little bit more in depth into it, but like, as I said throughout this entire conversation, like, I want to write music professionally, play that music professionally, and not be held back in terms of like genre or niche or clique or whatever.
Of course, make enough money that it's
sustainable. Exactly, do it professionally, but at the same time, be an artist, and being expressive in the things that I love and enjoy. But I just want to do all of it, and I don't want to ever be held back by like just people's perception or any like I don't want to let other things get in the way, like having to work some other job just to make this thing happen. Like, if I'm good enough at it, I should be able to live off of it. Exactly. So, and that's my very broad terms of goals. Like, but like for me, and like let's say like right now, I was telling you how I like ordered a new keyboard just today, just to start working on more music. Maybe not even necessarily for you guys, but just stuff that I just want to create, and maybe I will sell it off to somebody because I'm just starting to get more into producing music and beats.
This
and stuff
keyboard
like that.
can open the door for you to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just honestly, it's just a controller. It's just me having an easy way to access and control a software, as opposed to like mindless.
Makes you more efficient.
It's more musical. It's an instrument, but that it's a controller.
It's not you sitting on your phone at our table.
It lets me
Just
turn.
crushing it.
It's a controller that lets me turn the software that I'm using into an instrument. But yeah, I just want to make music and I just want to play music.
Any timeline that you think that you transition to full time, or are you just gonna take it day by day and just let life?
I gotta let it happen naturally. I think I can't. I don't want to. I don't think I can say at any particular point in time that this is my deadline and I need to be here at this moment. I absolutely want to push for it, and I have to push a lot harder this year to get there. And there is going to be a point where it's like, all right, you gotta jump.
Shit or get off
you
the
gotta
pot.
jump.
Like, yeah.
You just have to, because you can't be like, all right, well, I'm gonna work part time and do music part time. It's like, no, if you want to do it full time, you've got to do it full time. You know, and
you won't put in the
exactly.
work.
You just can't.
Yeah.
There's no more. You've allocated this time of day to do that thing, so you can't do this.
And something special definitely happens when you go, oh shit, I need to make this work.
Yeah, and
because this is my lifeline now.
It's absolutely scary, you know, and that's why this year I wanna get to the point where, like, if I'm making music the way that I want to, in terms of production and just like, as you say, beats by Braulio and stuff like that. But if I can get to a point where I'm doing that comfortably and I can make a living off of it, or I can make a living just producing for other people,
income,
just like supplement stuff, like, then I should absolutely take the plunge and just be like, all right, I'm just doing this, and you know, if I promote it properly on social media, if I'm doing all my due diligence on putting myself out there and really working hard to craft everything that I'm doing musically, then it'll work out, you know. And I absolutely want to be in a band. Through all my career, I love being in a band. I love, you know, it doesn't matter what kind of band it is.
I'm sure it's the camaraderie and, like you said, like the familial relationship that comes with being in that.
But I just find it interesting, like, how, like, when I bring the bones of a song to people and how other people interpret it,
it's kind of coming together and
it just
creating
works,
something together.
You know, exactly. And, like, when I hear, like, I'm not necessarily always the person that, like, I know what the thing that the song's missing is, but when somebody plays it, I'm like, that's it.
Right.
You're gonna do that from now on, and you're not gonna argue with me about it, because that's the thing that I need to hear, that needs to be playing all the time at that section in this song. But yeah, I love being in a band and I love having that experience of it. But I do still I like every facet. I'm obsessed with every facet of music, that I just want to be doing everything that I could possibly do.
Doing it all the time.
Just
Or
make
every
that
second
my life.
you can.
That needs to be my life.
So, I mean, this kind of brings up something that I've thought of. So there are, I guess, music producers that don't actually play or do any of that stuff, but they just know what sounds good. Like, I mean, in Californication, Lou Ashby was one of those guys, and I'm sure he was based off a real life music producer. But what is so? I guess the real question is: do you personally think that you could have no actual musical talent, being able to play that, but you could just have that ear? Well, I mean,
it's not
like you
saying
can't
no musical
but
talent,
you can't play.
But
the
like
music.
you have no formal
Yeah.
like I think DJ Mustard doesn't
But see,
or has
he did
never
the
actually
beats.
picked up a.
But-
But he uses the
But I
instruments.
just
in
mean
his
that
beats.
there are producers that could hear an arrangement, hear a band play, and can say you need to do this, this, and this, and it makes it successful.
Well-
But they can't actually play those instruments.
Like I said, like when I ordered that keyboard controller today, a keyboard is a familiar instrument for me,
Yeah.
so it makes it simple in terms of like using it as a controller for the software that I'm using. But all it's doing is turning that software into a physical instrument that I'm familiar
yeah.
with.
Right. So, turning, like, let's say, just the bongos into a keyboard, but you're familiar with, and you can go, okay, these are the basics. I can do that.
Yeah, I have all these, controls and parameters that I can dial in and set, and like these modulation effects that I can control on this keyboard controller. Because there's the keys that are on it, but it's got a whole bunch of different parameters that I can control the software with. But I mean, like, if somebody doesn't even need that controller between them and the software, and they're making music on that software, like I said before, if they're doing it good, yeah, they absolutely are musicians and they're artists. Like the software, like digital music kind of gets a bad rap in terms of like, it's not even music. Like
You didn't make it.
you don't
It's
know
just-
how to play.
You didn't
these
strum the
instruments.
guitar yourself.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously anybody can do it, and Joe Schmo doing it isn't doing it as well as this guy. So there's some level of talent there. There has to be. Otherwise, anybody could make the next hit song on the radio. Exactly. Gucci Gang. But, that the people that aren't using it as a crutch are making it into an instrument in of itself.
Yeah.
So, like,
I guess it's
I
the
just
same
can't-
way
I
people
can't
say
fight
they
that.
think that, people that use samples aren't really. Well, they've taken someone else's music, transformed it into what they do.
dude,
Yeah.
when people take a sample and then transform it in, like, I can no longer, like, it blows my mind how they heard this
From that.
this sample from this other song, and they turn it into their own thing, and it's completely different. That blows my mind every single time, because, like, I can only see things for what they are. I can't see things for what they aren't.
I mean, like a great example, like Ludacris did that song Georgia, which was a sample of Ray Charles singing Georgia on My Mind. And they are completely different.
Absolutely.
There's no connection except for the fact that he's using the word Georgia.
Yep.
But it's just nuts how well
Or
that
Blood
works.
on the Leaves by Kanye
Yeah.
and Nina Simone, and how she had way different
The context of
interpretation.
that was 1,000%.
But like he took that, heard it, and it was like, all right, let me make this into a hip hop song, and it works.
Yeah, it's like he's ripping
They're
it
both-
apart and then putting
right.
it back together, and it's completely different.
And they're both amazing songs in their
Yep.
own right. Like,
Yep.
It's crazy that some person can do it. So as a musician that's aspiring to go full time, what have been some hurdles along the way that kind of you had to hop over, or like we like to ask this all the time on every person that's on here? What is the biggest setback / failure / hurdle that in the end was actually one of your
That propelled you to
Yeah.
greater success.
So, in the past couple of years, like when I started at the VA, like, don't get me wrong, I love working at the VA, and I really like my job, and I like working with the veterans at the hospital. But the being able to make the money that I was making out there really helped the band. So, me and Brandon put forward a lot of that to get that first EP off the ground and get a lot of the equipment that we needed, upgrading our own equipment, because I know I said it earlier, you can make gold from nothing, but it sure as hell helps having nice instrument.
It's more efficient. Right?
Yeah, it's
like
just
with our coffee maker. We now have a bigger coffee maker. We could easily do what we did in the car units and do the same quality, but it's a lot easier to do.
We don't got
5 gallons.
We don't got to make
with a one press of a
10
button.
pots. We can just go done.
Right.
if you know how to do it with the other thing, like it still works out, but it makes it easier and it helps you bring it to another level.
Do you think that I don't want to say struggle, but having to go to like rudimentary like you said using nothing to make gold, does that help you as an artist or perfect your craft in the long run because you knew what it was like to?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say yes. Some people do kind of skip that stage, but you know, if you can make something awesome with next to nothing, like with just one microphone and whatever you got, your voice, your guitar, whatever, then like the moment you have access to anything you could want in terms of like just like being able to go to a studio and having access to all of their equipment, it just opens up everything for you. It's because the inherent artistry of making music, making really good music, it's all internal, you know, and then everything that you're using is just a medium to expressing that. So, like when you're starting off and you learn to do that with what people might say is a really inefficient medium, the moment you upgrade to something that is efficient, it's just easier, you know? And if you've already learned how to make a gold record on crap instruments and crap equipment, you're like, just because if that's the thing that was holding back, you're going to be making, you know,
It's almost like a true test of the talent.
yeah, it's exactly. You're making even better music on better equipment, and it just keeps working out like that.
Did you see like a learning curve from going from basic stuff to then like getting all access to like oh wait, I could do that with this. Oh wow. Cut my studio time in half.
Some things do transition. Like, so when I was working very early on, recording at home on software called Ableton, like having compressors and equalizers and any other VTS plugin in a digital format, you know, on a screen is a much different experience than having the actual physical compressor in front of you, like an analog compressor that you have dials and notches that you can click and control, and seeing the VTS meter like, you know, kind of like bounce around because you have this, you know, electric current being pumped into it that it's messing with, and it is a different experience, and there is a bit of a learning curve because physical equipment behaves entirely different than digital software. Digital software is preset and programmed to act a certain way when things go into it. The fun thing about analog equipment is sometimes unforeseen things occur in that process, and there is that learning curve of kind of like, again, being intuitive on how these things are going to work together, because I don't want to, you know, offend anybody, but digital software is a lot safer.
Right.
You know,
It's built to produce.
it's just
the best
built
thing.
to work, you know,
Yeah.
and work exactly how you expect it to work. Analog equipment like synthesizers, compressors, overdrives, mic pre's, they behave differently. They behave, some people say, more organically, you know, because it is sort of like nature just isn't that neat.
Yeah.
It's very messy, and analog equipment is kind of messy in terms of how you make music with it.
It's kind of like there's not a safety net there. It's gonna
absolutely.
It's gonna do what you do.
Like you can take, like I consider, so like when I was recording guitars for our new album, like I'll use a wide variety of guitars for the entire album, but in my head I'm thinking, how's this guitar going through these pedals, going into this amp with these mic pre's, that compressor, this reverb, how's that going to sound? Like that's a much more complex and more like interactive equation than clicking on this, scrolling down to that, and like that's going to sound like this, and then you can like sort of mess with the parameters a little bit and kind of fine tune it, but it has limitations, and it has you know, a preset way it's going to behave, as opposed to like if I plug this pedal into that amp, sometimes some really wild things happen and you get some crazy noises that you weren't expecting, but that could be the thing, you know, that inspires you or makes the song, you know. And I know some people who just like get completely inspired by a single sound. Not saying that can't happen in software, because there was one time when me and Brandon were messing around recording at home, and he played this simple progression on his keyboard. He was using my guitar wah pedal. We were going straight into my software. Then once it was in the software, I think I put it through like a stereo envelope filter, and it completely changed the piano. It didn't sound like a piano. It was like this weird like stereo bouncing electronics, like, but it sounded really, really cool. And when I showed it to him, he was like, "What the hell?" He was like, "This is wicked. This sounds awesome. This needs to be how like a song starts." We never did anything with it, but it was still cool to have.
This is another one of our questions that we asked everybody on here. What advice do you have for people out there in life? We've talked about business a lot on this podcast, so business, or you know, maybe just achieving your dreams. So you
Music, business, whatever.
Yeah.
Starting out, like if you have a clear idea of what it is that you want to achieve, like it's understanding that it's not going to happen quickly, and being comfortable with that, but then taking the steps necessary and making the sacrifices that you have to make in order to achieve that. Because when I started out, when it really got serious, like I said, I started a job. Like I said, I enjoyed working where I'm at, but knowing that I needed to work full-time to be a full-time musician, but then kind of like slowly work myself off of that, where I went from full-time to part-time, and then, you know, making the sacrifice of consuming my time so that I can make more time.
Yeah.
And what I love, and understanding that at some point I'll have to make another sacrifice where it's not as safe. Because I could fail as an artist or as a musician. And just understanding that you might have to be okay with the fluctuation of that. You know, if I go for it and it's not working out, I can't just be like, well, I already quit. I have to keep pushing. I have to keep pushing. I have to keep pushing. He's like, no, I have to be realistic about it. You have to be, you know, you have to confront your flaws, and you have to move forward. You know, if you got to go back and work a factory job to make ends meet, so you can get back on the horse and get back to what you were trying to do. Just keep trying. You know, if you fail, like, why did you fail? Go back to it.
You just got to be comfortable with the possibility of failure, which from doing all of these, you know, interviews, podcasts, whatever you want to call it, we get a lot of people that get freaked out when we ask them that failure question. They're like, "Oh, fail!" Like, oh, I'm like, "Yeah, listen." I mean,
because I feel like fail's so definitive.
Yeah, it's like, you know, failing isn't definitive.
I hate that. I genuinely hate that. As an artist, like I
it's nice having people like, oh, that was phenomenal. What you guys are doing is great, awesome. It's like, okay, but gives me zero information on how to get better or how to do anything better.
Right.
It's like you have to know where your flaws are in order to hammer them out.
Well, like we've been trying to tell people that with here, like espresso. We've only been doing espresso for 3 weeks. Like, oh, this is great. I'm like, yeah, but what don't you like about it?
Like the first day or second day, someone came in that was a regular at the card unit and was like, not to be
a bitch.
Yeah,
is what she said,
but it's a little bitter, and we're like, honestly, thank you, because we like I said, we just started. That's our first day, so that was really like day 3 of on our machine, which is completely different how we were trained, and so that feedback, that real feedback, not the fluff, basically saying, "Oh, that was great,
delicious." It's
the real feedback helps everybody get better and hones it on the craft, because you may think what you're doing is good, but Jack may think it's it could be better. I didn't like this, and everybody's input. While not every input really you need to listen to, but there's some things that you can decipher from everybody's input at least a little bit.
Exactly, because if you're completely oblivious to what you're doing, then the fluff is detrimental to you. If you have intuition on what you're doing, you know what's fluff, and when somebody actually brings forward a flaw, then you're able to say, like, okay, and like even if people are being extreme in what they think is a problem, because like you're making coffee, like there's gonna be a little bitter in there,
right?
Like it's happen.
Coffee,
it's coffee,
yeah.
But like understanding like if it's to what degree,
right?
Or if it's a bitter taste you're looking for.
Exactly.
That's one thing we learned. There's a whole flavor wheel spectrum, and it's actually 2 flavor wheels in one. And like you want certain profiles of bitter, because that means that's
bitter is a flavor profile,
right? Yeah,
absolutely, right along with sweet, sour, umami, just like earthy tones.
Yeah, but like you need that feedback, and you need people telling you honestly, like.
But you also need to like. There's times when people are like, oh, because they enjoy the sweeter side of coffee. Well, that's not us. So they also have to get to the point where you gotta like, thank you for your input, but I'm gonna keep moving forward.
Kind of decipher the feedback.
Like I said, there's little things that you can take from everything, but you don't need to take all of the feedback.
Yeah. And I was having the conversation with one of the members from the band that we played a show last night at Papa Pete's. With Modern Adventures in Meccano. I'll plug you in there real quick. The idea of just like being an artist or a musician is just being comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And because it's the entire lifestyle, and you have to do that. You have to be comfortable in your craft to where you can expose yourself and say, what do you think the problem is? Be confident enough to know when somebody is giving you fluff or is just being, they're not really giving you quality feedback. They're just complaining about something that they just don't like versus the actual, feedback that you need to improve what you're doing. And those conversations aren't always comfortable. But being able to differentiate and identify between those things and being able to put yourself out there like that is absolutely necessary. On top of just like any other general life sacrifice that you might have to make as a businessman, as entrepreneurs, as artists in general.
Well, I mean, doing anything you really want to do, you're going to have to be uncomfortable at some point.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, and you're going to have to be fit. You're going to have to be okay with the aspect that failure might happen. Mm-hmm. You might not get it the first time around.
And having the conviction to say, if that happens, I gotta work it out.
And keep going.
Yep. Gotta pick it back up.
My favorite story is when the first day we opened Car Unit, we were slightly hungover.
A little bit. A little bit.
Perfect.
And we the day before or the 2 days before, our coffee machine that we bought
Didn't work.
Oh no.
So then we were like, all right, let's go to Meijer and buy a regular bun
We'll
one,
just buy a quick one just to get through today.
which ended up being the beast we used forever.
Yeah, we used that $90 bun at-home coffee maker for 4 months down at the cargo unit, just busted out pots of coffee.
And so, it's brand new. We're obviously groggy from the night before, and we're like, all right, let's make a pot of coffee. So we did what you did. You put the grounds in the filter,
put the water in the top.
and we're like, cool, we're good. What was Saturday? So we opened at 8.
Yeah.
8:10. Someone's walking up. We're like, oh shit,
Yeah.
cool. All right, hey, how can we help you? He goes, I just want a hot coffee.
Hot coffee, so yeah. Get it to him, pour it to him, not even thinking. Doesn't feel hot. Hand it to him.
Didn't think it was hot or just nothing. We didn't think anything was
There
wrong.
was no cognitive
Yeah.
process.
Walks off, and then I'm just like, is this hot?
Yeah, I think you went to like pour yourself a cup.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, this isn't hot. And we feel it, and we didn't plug it in.
Yeah,
Oh.
just ran through.
So it just
my
ran
God.
water through the grounds, and it was brown enough. So
Yeah.
we were like, yeah, okay, there you go.
Come to find out, it's the mayor of
Mayor
Battle
of
Creek.
Battle Creek, yeah.
Our first customer.
Customer was
the mayor of Battle
Benke.
Creek.
He didn't say shit to us about that.
Never.
Once.
Never.
He never once said, "You guys served me a shitty cold cup of coffee."
He came back,
But he came back as a regular all the time, and it still does. Like, but we were just like, "Oh, son of a bitch."
man.
Well, guess what? Let's dump that out and keep going.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
we just like, yeah,
Yeah, the essence of that, like you failed
That's
miserably.
That's
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah, but you just gotta keep going. All right. Anything else you want to plug? Any dates coming up for Minor Element or
April 12th, we are playing at Bell's.
save
I
2
think it's
tickets
Bell's.
for
Yeah.
us this time.
That's right.
That's
No,
for-
we'll try.
for your ears,
4 years
only,
only.
right?
2.
2. Sweet.
Hard to.
Yeah.
Any social media tags for you or Minor Element or Black Sheep?
Absolutely. Go check out Minor Element. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. We'll be having a brand new record that we're all really proud of. It's really, really awesome.
It is
As
crazy.
the kids say, it slaps.
Oh,
Hard.
dude. It's like, even though it's jazz fusion, like,
It really is so much more than that.
yeah, it's,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
wicked. Because, like, people got hip hop influences in there. But, go check out all of our artists under Black Sheep. James McGee goes under the artist name of Allah. Stanley Phillips, go check out his stuff. Jermaine Williams got some tracks coming out. I think he's got a track coming out very soon. I think this month.
All right.
So go follow him on Facebook.
When's
Go.
the chosen one?
Don't ask me that.
When she dropped it.
Text
We
her.
know.
Ask her to be
I
on the
bug her.
podcast. And
Let's
you can
ask
ask
her
her
every day. So
Every time she comes in.
Because I don't have an answer for you.
all right.
But yeah, go follow the Black Sheep page. If you follow any of our pages, like any of the different artists' page, you'll probably see us promoting each other because we care about each other. But absolutely, go look at Black Sheep. Follow it on Facebook. Go follow Minor Element on Facebook, and follow every other artist that is affiliated with Black Sheep on Facebook and Instagram and whatever social media that we might be on. We got music on Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes.
Stranger Things.
Yep, everybody else has got their music up there too.
Chicago
so-
Nights. Boom. All right. Well, I think that is it for us tonight. Thank you for sticking with us through this marathon session.
Yeah. Thanks, Braulio, for being here.
This is what happens when
I love it.
we all get together. Actually, I mean, shit,
Yeah,
this
literally
happens
every
in the
time.
shop like every other day.
I love podcasts.
And I mean, we just talk like this all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what's great. This one's a little bit different than normal. That's just because of the familiarity that we all have with each other. So
God,
hope you Spyro the Dragon on PS1, bro. over at Oakbrook in your
I can't
guys'
even
old
remember how
townhouse.
old we were when we first met.
I'm barely old enough to remember. I remember going over to the
To
apartment.
the townhouse over at Oakbrook,
Yeah.
man. That's what I remember. So yeah, thanks for coming by, and we'll probably do a few more with
Yeah.
Braulio here because it's just what we do.
Might be a regular.
So
Sure.
maybe someday he'll be down here playing some ukulele, freestyling.
Yeah.
My body is one. I gotta figure out the incorporation of ukulele. All right.
I think that's all we got tonight. Thanks for coming by. Take it easy.